Welcome to Something to Talk About. Today, we're going to talk about a pretty serious topic, something that I think has plagued Guam for a long time, and it appears to be getting worse. We're talking about the displacement of children in our families and no place for them to go. We're about to talk about foster care on Guam. I've got some guests for you, and I think you'll enjoy the conversation here on Something to Talk About. Hey, thank you for joining us here at King's Restaurant. As I said, we're talking about foster care. That's the subject today, and it's just three girls sitting over a plate of fries.
Yes.
and the nachos. That's to die for. Janae Uggan is with me, as well as Brianna Tyron, talking about a really important subject, something that you've held very close to your heart for so long.
Yes.
It's the Guam Foster Families Association.
Yes, Patty. Guam Foster Families Association. We are celebrating National Foster Care Month. So the whole month of May, we're going to be putting together some activities, just talking about how people can get involved and how they can sign up to become licensed foster parents.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I don't even know where to start here, but I've interviewed you before, and I'm very familiar with, with the topic. But I think some of the problem is that a lot of people aren't familiar with the topic, and they don't understand what the reality. Hey, Kat!
Oh,
Kat has brought us some other stuff. Thanks, girl. Yeah, this is why I like interviewing chicks, because they're not afraid to eat, and I know that. Thanks, Ralph. Dig in here anywhere. But okay, but a lot of people aren't familiar with it because a lot of people don't think about foster care. If you're living in your own little world and your family is secure and people don't think, how could I help somebody else who might need additional help?
I know, and a lot of people are under the misconception that, that there's a lot of foster homes on island. There's not that much foster kids. That's not true. We actually have, as of today, 183 children in the foster care system, and we only have 38 licensed foster homes. Yeah, so you can imagine that's 183 spread among the 38 homes. You have the shelter. The shelter's capacity is 12 children. And then some of them are in sanctuary, group homes, DYA. They're just spread apart. And then there's relative placement.
But we are building a facility, aren't we?
I believe so. I know that the Regalo Foundation is building a facility in Barrigada. It's not complete yet. When it is built, it will help alleviate the problem.
It's not going to, by any stretch of the imagination, accommodate the load that we have currently.
I'm not too sure, because I believe the law states that the capacity is 12 children. It's still, we're still going to have a lot of children who needs to be placed in homes.
Yeah. Brianna, what's your role here? Now, you're a GCC student.
Yes, I am. I'm the marketing chair for GCC. So for Mr. Topaz's class, this was our event. When the semester started, our main event was to throw a carnival for the Foster Family Association. And a lot of it was pretty new to us. We have a chair, we have a co-chair, a main chair, and this was the first time we've ever had to go out and get sponsors to be the ones to come up with the fundraiser, with the car wash, with the scratch card. So we've put a lot of work to the whole thing. So we're pretty excited to see everything come true tomorrow.
The idea here is to link up families with these foster children.
Yes.
And to do that, it's a bigger marketing campaign. You have to convince people to get out of their comfort zone and take in somebody who is completely displaced and may have issues that you're introducing into your own family's atmosphere.
True. And then there's also the emotional aspect. A lot of people don't want to do it because they don't want to get emotionally attached. And then when they, because the primary goal of the Bureau of Social Services Administration, which is CPS, the primary goal is always reunification of the family. We always want the child to go back home with their parent. We try to strengthen the family in any way that they can, and just give them the tools to have a healthy family relationship. So the goal is always reunification. And a lot of people who think about fostering, they always get scared that they're going to be so emotionally attached, and then when the child has to go back home, it's going to devastate them. I mean, look at the bigger picture. From that time being that the child is with you, you're helping them, you're molding them, they're learning from you. So that's something that they will never take away from them. And I've heard a lot of success stories of foster children being reunified, but then they still have a good relationship with their foster parents, and they credit their foster parents to teaching them a lot of things. So the bigger picture there is that you're helping the child for the time being that they're in your home. So, and that's what we really try to push and encourage. Look at that part. You're going to be changing their life forever. And then the other part that's a little bit daunting is the application process to become a foster parent. It's
has that been streamlined much since in the past several years?
Well, it's not that it's streamlined. It's just that it's a daunting process because it's strict.
It's cumbersome.
Yeah, it's very there's a lot of background checks. And it's all for the best interest of the child, especially because Guam is a gateway to the Pacific. I hate thinking about it, but there are some child traffickers who pass by Guam. So, we have to look out for the best interest of the child and make sure that, they stay safe, and whoever we're licensing is a legitimately good person.
Yeah.
So it's people
character is
oh,
huge
yeah,
in
it's
this.
huge, very huge.
This is more credible with character than almost anything else.
Totally.
I want to talk about, before we take the break, I want to get into the conversation about how children become foster kids, how they become displaced. You've been with CPS.
Yes.
You have, I'm sure, the stories that have wrenched your heart.
Yes.
But some of the reasons why some kids are displaced, tell me, in this world, is it fueled by drug use more than it is fueled by anything else?
There's a lot of social economical problems that do fuel the influx of child abuse on the island. Definitely drugs. If you look at the law, child abuse is physical abuse, emotional abuse, medical neglect, educational neglect. So it's very detailed on what constitutes as child abuse. So if they're not going to school because mom and dad is too high on drugs, so that's child abuse. There's
do
a
you
lot.
find these cases though? I mean, the child, and how do you find them?
Thankfully, the bureau. Yeah. Oh yeah. No. I'm like, don't be scared.
We're too into it.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
So,
the part.
thankfully, the Bureau of Social Services is really good in teaching people how to become a mandated reporter. So all teachers, if you work in a clinic, if you work in a hospital, you're a mandated reporter. Okay. So if you're a teacher and you suspect even a little bit of abuse, you have to turn in a referral. And so that's how a lot of our referrals come in. And then of course there's the concerned neighbor or citizen who kind of notices, say, something's off here. And so they call it in, Everything you call in is logged in, and they really do try to take the time to investigate everything. But of course,
do you even have enough investigators? That's the other thing, right?
That's the other thing. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, the more, how do I say this? It's a double-edged sword because if the number is high, that's sad, because that means there's a lot of children who are going through this kind of abuse or, neglect. But if the number is high, that means that all the social workers are doing their job, catching it. Mm-hmm. So it's a double-edged sword. I'm happy that the numbers are high because that means we're helping a lot of children who probably has been suffering in silence for a long time. I really have to credit the social workers at the Bureau because they really do the work out of the bottom. It's
hard to be in this business and not have some kind of emotional attachment to it. And I know that drove you. As a social worker, I know that sort of drove you and compelled you to act in a lot of ways for the betterment of a child's.
Yes, it's just, it's so hard for you not to. I mean, if you don't feel something, I don't know. It's just.
This is not your line of work.
I'm so sorry. Find another find another job. Like just Monday when I was there meeting them for a meeting, regarding foster care month, they were just joking with me. There's a little boy walking. I'm like, he is so adorable. Like, you want to take him home? I'm like, seriously? They're like, we will we will get you cleared because there's just no fosters. There's no foster parents. There's no placement. And I was just like, wow, I'm 10 minutes away from taking home a baby boy. You know, and my husband's like,
But
are
I
you
mean,
crazy?
it becomes that desperate, though. I mean,
It
obviously
is,
it becomes
you
that
know,
desperate.
and that's
'cause-
at 4 p.m., right? They get off at 5. So that's 4 o'clock. They need to place them somewhere. They're,
If
you
they
know,
don't, they have been. I know Lydia Tenorio has said she's been in a situation where the child's welfare is so emergent that there's been times where she's had to swoop these kids up and take them home.
Yes, and you know, I love Lyd. Lyd was a great
Gosh.
administrator.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from her, and
She was there for a very
for
long
a very
time.
long time. So, yeah, it does come down to that sometimes, and it's very sad. So that's why we're really doubling on pushing our efforts to get as many people to license themselves as a foster home and even therapeutic foster homes. The need is there, and we're hoping people will step up to the plate to do this.
I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break so we can eat this stuff, because look at this. It's all untouched.
Look at this.
We'll take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the process and how easy it can be for families who've got their stuff together already, right? Okay. We're talking about foster care on Guam. We'll be right back. Back to something to talk about with Janae Uggan and Brianna Tyron. We're talking about Guam foster families and some of the effort that goes into matching a growing number of children who are looking for a place, at least temporarily, to live. In the longer, more, looking into the future, are you looking for? They don't call them permanent homes, do they? I mean, you're looking for more foster families that will take children outside of emergency situations.
Yes, well,
It's like a form of adoption, but not.
but not, well, it really depends on like the situation. Once you become a licensed foster parent, there's different, they'll call you and say, hey, I have a short term. This is probably going to be like an hour. Can you do it? And then, or it can be, or they'll call and say, this might be a long term, maybe until they're 18. And, it's really up to the foster parent to decide whether or not they want. And then a lot of people don't know is, you can let them know what your preference is. If you prefer to have a baby in your home, which everybody prefers to have a baby in their
That's
home.
like the number one.
Yeah, that's like the number one. They're like, we want a baby. And
Yeah.
like, okay, that's great. The need is usually children, school-age children, and teens, because a lot of people think the teens are a little bit more difficult to have in their home. And of course, I mean, they're teens. They're finding
issues
themselves.
there. There's still
there's
issues there.
issues there. So that's always the harder ones to place, and sometimes they get placed in sanctuary or worst case scenario DYA. You just let them know. Say, I prefer to foster a 6-year-old, preferably female, because I have girls already. You can let them know, and then the licensing social worker, her name is Grace Iwashida. She's awesome. She'll walk you through the whole process and explain every single process to you and keep you very informed. And they have really great support system. The Guam foster families were a support system as well. We tried to put together, well, we didn't try, there is a program in place where if they need something, all they need to do is request from us, and then we'll try to fulfill that need. So, it's like I said, it's a daunting process, but the rewards are really huge.
Most foster families will say that the rewards are really huge, because you don't get into the environment if you're not willing to be a part of it. And I know several people who have gone into foster care and have enjoyed it, and have always, continued to look for, opportunities, to be some kind of force in a child's life, because they live temporarily in this stable environment, right? So they get to know what that feels like.
Yes.
You might even have children who have never been in a stable environment, right?
I mean, we've had children who've never eaten McDonald's ever. We've had children who has never properly used the restroom. I mean, there's some extreme cases, and then there's some where they've just never owned like a toy. It really changes, and just that small time, like you said, just that small time of stability in their life, it really does make a difference. Just recently, I met a young man, and he's like, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, I'm so sorry, and he's like, because I'm a little bit older, but you think back, and I was like, oh my gosh, and he's doing so well, from the situation he was in. Now he's working, he has a family of his own, he has a car, he has a wife, and he really credits it to just being in the home for the short amount of time, and the short amount of time for
And
him
being
was,
exposed to
yes,
that.
to being exposed to like a healthy family living situation.
And if you're exposed to it, you see it, then you want it.
You want it, exactly.
That's a big
So
deal.
it really changed his whole outlook.
You said, we've always talked about this, and I know that you've said this before, that finding homes for children is, likely to be a temporary situation, because the idea is for the family to still be together.
Yes.
That's
The goal
you're
is
not trying to
always-
take children
No.
from their parents, but
No.
you're doing everything that you can, like, to assist the parents as well.
Yes. The great thing about the Bureau of Social Services is they have a section there called the Family Preservation section. And what they do is they really help. I mean, all social workers do. That's part of their service plan agreement. They identify the reason why your child was exerted, and here are the ways you can get your child back. And then they help you. They help you find the tools so that you can work on it on your own to work and get your child back. And that, when they take your child, it's not that they take your child and you're not going to see them. You get visitations. Of course, depending on the severity of the abuse, we're not going to let you see your child if you beat them black and blue, obviously. But then if it's, you're trying, it's just a victim of circumstance, they do put visitations in place. And they just, when there's visitations, and I've been very honored and privileged to be able to help families like that, you just see the growth. You see them from saying, oh, hey, what's up, to later down the line, maybe 4 or 5 visitations later, they're like, it's an embrace. Instead of just like a hi dad or hi mom, becomes an embrace, and you really see them build a bond. So that's one of the things that they work on, is that building that relationship and strengthening that bond so that they have a healthy family life.
So it could be as simple as sort of jarring the family to, the parents have the threat of the child being taken away, and it sort of snaps them out
Yes,
of it,
yes.
to more severe cases
Yes.
where there has been neglect in that child's life, and the mother and the father are no
Just
longer
not,
safe.
yeah, it's not, they're not suitable for the child to return to the home.
What I think that part of one of the questions that got to me was when we're constantly looking for ways. It's so unlike us in our culture to farm out our children.
No, yeah.
So when you're, do the families not sort of step in and take over?
Some families, I guess it's overwhelming. There's a lot of families who are like, that is my niece, I will take her in, do not put her in a shelter. And then there's other families whose circumstances are not as great as the others. They're financially not as stable as another family, who are thinking like, man, that's going to be one more mouth to feed. I already have 8, and they look at all of that, and of course, you can't hate them on that. That they're thinking, I already have this. How am I going to provide for one more?
stepping up.
Yeah, stepping up.
That they might be better off in a shelter.
Exactly,
or in another
exactly, and that's what a lot of them say. Like, I think he's better off in a shelter, because at least he will be able to eat and go to school, and he'll have clothes, and which is, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Foster Care Month, our theme this year is actually in relation to relative placement. It's called Open Hearts Open Closet is another organization, or not an organization, but it's one of the things that we're putting together. But oh my gosh, see,
Your theme this year.
Our theme this year is long, so
Yeah.
it's the 2018 theme is it's all relative, supporting kinship connections, which is basically encouraging relative placement.
Yeah.
Instead of putting these children in licensed foster homes, we're saying, locate an aunt or a brother or a sister. We'll give them the tools and the training and the support they need to take the child in, which is great, because
Do you offer that kind of service, like transportation to school and that kind of thing? You get that involved in it?
yes, it really depends on the situation. Like, let's say the relative placement is in Rahan, but the child goes to school in Dedido, and there's just no way that they can get the child, because we try not to when there's exertion, they try not to, meddle too much with the child's life. We're taking him out of his home. Now we're going to take him out of his school. We try to keep his life as normal as possible.
So you're not going to reassign the child because of the village. Okay.
Yeah, it really just depends too on the situation.
Oh, that makes sense.
Good thing to take into consideration.
The support is a big deal in GCC. In your class, what's the name of your teacher? Your instructor?
Frederick Topaz.
Okay, and what's the class?
This is for ethics and stakeholding.
Okay. Oh, wow, cool. That's a cool class. I like that title. That sounds intriguing to me. I want to sign up.
It's really good.
It
honestly.
is,
We're excited to see. I know she mentioned that more people are likely to want a baby. Of course, who doesn't want a baby?
Yeah.
But at this carnival, you will not be able to tell who is a foster child and who's just a kid there with their family. So I hope that it opens the community into seeing just that look on the child's face, the smile, the light in their eyes, that it doesn't matter if you get a baby, it matters if you help this cause.
Yeah, you might have a lot of really uplifting moments in this. I mean, as a student who's taken on this project and adopting, basically, no pun intended, but adopting the Foster Families Association, has there been something about the organization or the people in this industry, this business, that has captured you?
Oh, definitely. Just speaking with Janae and hearing her speak from the heart, you know that this is definitely not a business you go into if you're looking to make money. This is more of a selfless cause. This is so important where you can't think of money. You need to think of your resources, and the same reason that drove you to do it, you need to empower that in people, instill that in people.
Yeah, but it is ethical.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
I mean, that's comes down to it's the ethical treatment of people in our community. We have to prop each other up, and we have to do better for ourselves and for each other.
Easier said than done.
It really is easier said than done, but I preach.
Yes.
I preach that every day on the radio. I gotta say,
definitely.
we have to band together because we can't rely on the government to fix and solve all these problems without us being heavily taxed. We need to take these responsibilities as community stakeholders, because all of us, are victims of it in some form. Yeah. But the whole thing about, child protective services, that's another daunting conversation, because if you talk about the numbers that have been, and you heard the testimony in front of the legislature, by Anita Arreola and Carlotta Leon Guerrero and those ladies that stood for this data about children and where we are in the treatment of them, it's frightening to think of what our future is going to be for the kids.
Yes, and
and it's a never-ending thing.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was so inspiring. When you just hear them, it just makes you want to work harder. And everything they said is pretty much true. The numbers are staggering sometimes. Sometimes it goes over 200, and when it goes over 200, you're just like, whoa, okay, what's going on? What can we do as a community to kind of change the perception? And there's a lot of reasons these children get abused. Sometimes people they don't know, like sometimes they're misdiagnosed, like autism. Like last month was Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness, and also Autism Awareness Month. There's statistics, I can't remember the numbers right now, but the number of children who are abused and who are autistic, the numbers are pretty high, and it's because the parents aren't realizing that their child is autistic.
And so they're trying to discipline.
Yeah, they're
it's
trying
frustrating
to
because they're not.
Exactly. So they're misdiagnosed.
It's a lot. It's a
lot.
lot of education that has to be done, and I'm so proud of you guys for taking on the mission. Of course, Janae, I'm so proud of you always for the kind of work you do. You do a lot of thankless work, so I appreciate it, and thank you for sharing this with me. Sharing the calories, girls. I appreciate it. That's it for Something to Talk About. We'll catch you next time. Thank you. Have a good night.